Yeah, I would like to say hello to everybody. Thanks for coming and getting up that early. To be honest, in my career, it's probably the most early press conference in my life. I haven't had a press conference at 9 a.m., but due to the fact that we have the next game coming up on Sunday in 2 days' time, and I will have the first training session with players, there was no alternative to having a press conference at 9, and I'm very much looking forward to the next couple of days, weeks, and months working together with you. And once again, thanks for coming here and spending the time with us.
If you'd like to raise your hands. Simon?
Hi, Ralph. We're led to believe that roughly this time last year you spoke to Chelsea and said you didn't want to be an interim manager. I don't know whether that's true, but what can you achieve in the 6 months you've been given here, and what is your vision for Manchester United?
I mean, at the time when Chelsea contacted me last year or this year in February, they only spoke about the option to become interim manager for 4 months. So it was in February, without any perspective to work in the long term together. And here now we are talking about 6.5 months. So we only have 1/3 of all the games played in the Premiership. And as you all know, we have also agreed upon a 2-year advisory role after those 6.5 months. And in the end, to be honest, if a club like Manchester United contacts you for such a role, you cannot possibly turn it down.
I mean, do you look at last night, for instance, and think there are things that can change straight away? How are you going to do this? Because the team have done well the last 3 games, but before that, it's not been so good at all.
I mean, obviously, I've watched the latest games. I watched not only last night's game, but also the games against Watford and against Chelsea. And on TV, when I didn't know that there would be contact in the next days, I also watched out of interest the games against Liverpool and against Manchester City. So I'm pretty well aware and acquainted with what's happening here in the club and in the Premiership. I think it's pretty obvious that the team have abundant talent, young talented players, but also enough experienced players in the squad. But I mean, the major target for me in the next couple of weeks is just to bring more balance into the team. Even yesterday, we conceded 2 goals. We needed 3 goals in the end to win the game. And if you look at the total goals, number of goals conceded, it's almost two on average per game, and this is just too much. So this is my approach to help the team to get more balance, to get more control on the game. And yesterday's game, I mean, it was exciting for the fans, but even for myself as the future coach, those are not the kind of games that you need every day, because in football, for me, it's to minimize the coincidence factor and to have control and gain control on the game. And this is in football what it's about. And this is my approach. I will try to help these outstanding, talented players to try and get and keep the way away from their own goal.
James Jackson.
Hi, Ralph. I'm James Jackson. Nice to meet you. Just to ask you, how easy is this going to be for you to turn around Manchester United with that, consistent, good performance? And I'm guessing the aim is top 4 minimum. I guess for you finish.
I mean, the aim in the first instance is to win the next game, but the next game is on Sunday, so I have maybe 1 training session. Of course, I also have the training session today, but I can only introduce myself to the players this afternoon. The training will start at 3 o'clock. The players who have played last night, they cannot train today, so literally it's 1 training session. So there are not that many things that you can change on the training pitch, but it's of course about getting to know the players, speaking to them, letting them know what the approach will be. It will not be easy in the middle of the season. I'm fully aware, and I have enough experience to know that you cannot change everything within 1-2 days, or not even in 1-2 weeks. Other German coaches who have come to the Premiership have made the same experience. But it's about winning games, and in the end, I'm very ambitious, like the whole club, like everybody in the club, like all the players, and we want, in the end, to make the most successful season out of it that is possible. Right now, we have to be realistic. The distance between us and the top three is big. But on the other hand, we will see. It's about developing the performance and, as I said, help the team to get a feeling of how can we control the game.
You did really well with Hoffenheim, among other clubs. Is it the toughest challenge of your sort of very long career?
I mean, it's obviously the biggest club, but it's one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the world. So, of course, it's a massive challenge, and I'm more than excited to work with those kind of players that we have here. Yes, it's a big challenge, but as I said, I have also worked with other top star players at Schalke. It was a similar situation, as I said, I'm more than happy to work with this group of players.
David?
Hi, Ralf. If you are successful in the next 6 months, there will inevitably be a clamour for you to continue as manager. Is that a possibility, or is it set in stone that you will stop after 6 months and then go into the consultancy role?
I mean, the people with whom I have spoken so far, they have been very clear about that we are talking about a 6.5 months role as a manager currently. We have never spoken about what will happen in the summer. Right now, I'm fully aware that they might be looking for a new manager. If they will then speak with me about that, we will see. Maybe if they ask me my opinion, and as you said, everything goes well, we develop the team, I might even make the same recommendation to the board that I did at Leipzig twice, when I recommended to them that it might be a good idea to keep working with me for 1 year. But this is all hypothetical. We cannot speak about that. For me now, it's about winning the next games, and this is the major focus.
Ian?
When you look back at the 8.5 years since this club won a Premier League title, I know that wherever you've been around Europe, you will have been observing a club like this. What have you seen over those 8.5 years between winning that last title and where the club and the squad is now?
I mean, having had Sir Alec for 27 years, was he here, winning numerous titles. I don't think there was any other club. Maybe it was Giroud with Auxerre, but having had the same manager for 27 years is unique, is exceptional. And for me, it's not that unusual that after such a long, successful spell, that the club needs to find the new pathway. I mean, there had been changes in management, I don't know, 5 or 6 managers since Sir Alec left, and therefore it was also difficult for the club to gain continuity with regard to signing new players, developing, sticking to the DNA of the club. And I think this is vital in modern football that you do that. And for me, it's not that unusual that there were so many changes. And I think for the future, and I think we have the same opinion, the board members and myself, it's important that this will be developed in the future, that there will be not that many changes in management.
When you look at the squad that you inherit now, is it a good enough squad to compete with the 3 teams at the top of the league who seem on paper to look just that bit better than everybody else?
I mean, it's definitely good enough to play in the top flight and to compete in the top flight. If you look at the top 3 teams currently, they are very stable. They seem to be very stable. They have top coaches. Probably one of the best coaches in the world. And if you see how they play, how they keep winning and winning games in style, controlling the games, this is something that we have to develop. But when, for example, Jürgen came to Liverpool and the squad that he inherited at the time, I'm sure that it was definitely not a better squad than the one that I inherit now here at Manchester United.
Hi, Ralf. We've heard a lot about your philosophy and seen what you've done at other clubs down the years. How hard is it going to be to implement that at such a frantic time of the season? And secondly, we heard Michael Carrick was leaving the club yesterday. Will there be any other coaching changes? Will you be bringing anyone in?
first question, I mean, yes, I think to gain control on games in the future has got to do with playing proactively. No matter if we have the ball ourselves or if the other team is in possession of the ball. It's about helping the team to play together. It's about togetherness. It's also about team spirit. And we saw it yesterday. I mean, if we compare the two halves, first half, second half yesterday, it was completely different. And having had this unique fans behind us, this will help and will also help the team to gain confidence. And we could see it in the second half. So, as I said, this is obviously it's not easy, and I cannot do that within 1 or 2 training sessions, not even in 1 or 2 weeks. So it's not about playing pressing or counter-pressing for the pressing kind of sake. So, but it's about control. This is the major target. Michael, I got to know this 2 days ago, and I met with Michael and with Kieran, but especially with Michael 2 days ago. I had a long private conversation with him for more than an hour, and I was trying to convince him to stay on board, but he had obviously taken that decision weeks ago, that he needed a break and an hour, and I was trying to convince him to stay on board, but he had obviously taken that decision weeks ago, that he needed a break and rest after 30 years in professional football, and in the end I had to accept that. In a way I can also understand his decision. The third question about the coaching staff, I'm more than happy to work with the current coaching staff because I need their experience, I need their expertise regarding the current squad. I will obviously try to find 1, 2, maybe 3 people who can join us in the next 1 or 2 weeks, but due to the Brexit regulations, it's not that easy. Many of my former colleagues, no matter if it's video analysts or assistant coaches, are in long-term contracts with big clubs, so they're not available right now, so we have to be a little bit smart and clever and find the right people. But I hope that we can get them in here in the next 1 or 2 weeks, but I cannot tell you any names.
Thank you. Hi, Ralf. Talking about that philosophy, that proactive philosophy, we've obviously speculated a lot about what that would look like. And the person we have here, Cristiano Ronaldo, where he fits into that. Do you have to adapt?
You always have to adapt your style or your idea of football to the players you have available, not vice versa. And having seen Cristiano yesterday in the second half, at the age of 36, amazing, top professional, still that physically fit, and he's still a player who can easily make the difference. Yes, and it's about how can we develop the whole team. It's not only about Cristiano. We play in the most competitive league in the world, so we need all the players on board. What I saw from Cristiano yesterday, he's more than willing to do that, to put his input into the team, and the other team, the teammates will have to do the same.
Sam?
Ralf, you've got a very good record with recruitment at Leipzig and previous clubs. Going ahead to January, are you likely to have any input in terms of enhancing the squad? And if I may ask a second question, how's your relationship with John Murter going to play out, given that he's the football director and you're coming in and taking on that consultancy role in the future?
Yeah, we haven't spoken about new players, and it's not the time to speak about new players. Now it's the time to get to know the current squad in detail, and this is the major focus for the next couple of weeks, to get to know the players that we have currently. The squad is definitely not too small. There are enough players in the squad, and maybe at Christmas, after Christmas, there will be a time to speak about possible transfers in the winter. From my experience, winter is not the best time for sustainable transfers. So, and with this quality of players that we have here, it would, in theory, only make sense if you really get players who can almost guarantee you more quality. And as I said from experience, this will be difficult in the winter.
James Ducker?
Ralf, just following on from some of your comments about your philosophy, you've spoken very eloquently in the past about how it's the head coach or manager's job to have a very clear idea about how you want to play. Do you feel this team has had a bit of an identity issue, certainly in comparison to the rivals, And just secondly, there was quite a good quote from you where you said, you've got to decide what you want, like a little bit of pressing's like a little bit of pregnant. But given the fact, as Simon said, you can have next to no time on the training ground, and if you're suddenly demanding players that press in high energy, there might be a great risk of an injury. Do you think you're going to have to compromise a little bit over the next 6 months?
It can only go game by game, step by step. That's clear. I mean, whenever I came to other clubs in the middle of the season, which was the case, for example, in Stuttgart or in Schalke twice, you have to just make sure that you have the biggest chance to win the next game. This is what it's all about. And then step by step, let the players participate. They have to go together with me. They have to follow not only my instructions, but they have to buy into the idea that I can offer them how we should want to play in the future. So this is what it's all about. And as I said, it has to happen step by step. It cannot be done within 1-2 days like this. It will not work like that.
On the team's past identity, feel that there needs to be greater clarity over what the team is supposed to be and the way it wants to play football. If you compare that to, say, what a Man City or a Liverpool are.
Yes, but you are fully aware that Pep is there now for 3 years at Man City, Jürgen for 5 years, Jürgen for 3-4 years. Okay, Thomas only came in February, but still, I mean, there are time-wise maybe a little ahead of us, how they wanted to develop, but still, I mean, I'm more than happy with the quality of players that we have here, and I'm sure that if we can help them to get better in those areas that brought us into the position that we are currently in, that we can take the next possible steps, and this is what it's about.
Hi, Ralf. Just in terms of your own career, has it always been an ambition to come to the Premier League, and your name has been mentioned when there's been managerial changes here in the past? Have you been close to coming in the past?
I mean, as you all know, I studied when I was a young student. I studied English at university to become an English teacher, English and PE back in the late 70s, early 80s. At the time, I also lived in Brighton, lived in a host family, and since then, early 80s, I went took the fast train from Brighton to Victoria Station, and I watched every 3 days a home game in the old Highbury, in the old White Hart Lane, or even in Liverpool. I went to Goodison. I was not here at the time because that was too far away from Brighton. But since then, I have always very much cherished the way that teams are being supported. And I mean, even yesterday, I think this is absolutely unique. You will find very, very few football clubs in the world with that much of support. This is, for me, football in the purest sense, as it was in those times. And as I said, for me, it's more than exciting to now be part of that atmosphere, and as I said, this should help any team, and especially our players, to get on track and play at the highest on their highest possible level.
Hello, Ralf. I wonder how frustrating was it last night, sat in the director's box, unable to sort of affect the play, and just how much are you looking forward to being on that touchline in just a couple of days' time for your first game?
Yes, as I said, I'm very much looking forward to it. And yesterday in the box, it was like I felt with Michael and with Darren and with Kieran, because of course it was. Until the final whistle, it could have been 4-2, it could have been 3-3. I mean, this is the exciting thing about football. But as I said, as a coach, you don't want football games to develop that way, that anything can happen at any time, at any stage of the game. And I felt very much with my current colleagues. And in the end, I was more than happy that we got the result that we all wanted.
Thank you. Hi, Ralf. Thank you for your time. So one of the hottest prospects in football right now is Erling Haaland, a player you know well. Your friend and former teammate Ralf Krapf has said that he thinks you're going to do everything in your power to get Erling to Old Trafford. Can you say anything about that? And also there has been talks about a bonus if you manage to sign him. Can you say anything about that?
Let me have a look. Okay, 10 million for Erling Haaland. 10 million for Kylian Mbappé, 10 million for Robert Lewandowski, and 10 million for Joshua Kimmich. I mean, this is nonsense, obviously, just to answer the second question. Of course, there are no such clauses in my contract. As I said, it doesn't make sense now to have any sort of speculation on possible new players. That Erling Haaland is a fantastic striker. The people at Salzburg at the time, with my friend Christoph Freund and the people there, I was also a little bit involved in the move from Molde to Salzburg. And therefore I know what kind of player he is. But in the meantime, the whole world has realized how good the player is. 2 years ago, it was only very few people who had probably believed in this kind of development. But as I said, it doesn't make sense. I'm more than happy. I think the offensive strike power we have here, all the offensive players that we have here, and quite a few of them have not even played yesterday. Martial only came on in the last 5 minutes. Mason didn't play at all. So we have so many top players in the offensive department that we don't need to speak about any other players.
Hi Ralf, you've got a contract for 2.5 years in total. When it comes to the summer of 2024, where do you hope that United will be in terms of their progress on the pitch and off it?
Well, in the ideal world, we will be in the top flight regularly, not only in the top 4, but also playing for titles. This is also something that is in the DNA of the club. It's about winning titles, winning the league, winning cup, being as successful as you can be in the Champions League. And this is also an issue for the new year, that we are still in the Champions League, and depending the draw, hopefully can get further in that competition. And in 2.5 years, I think the DNA of the team, of the club, is clear. You have to be as successful as you can be.
In terms of that consultancy role going forward, what will you be doing in that role? Will you have quite a lot of control about how the academies run, for example?
We haven't spoken about that in detail, to be honest, in all the conversations that we had with John, also with Ed, but especially with John. I also had a long telephone call with Joel Glazer for more than half an hour. I also spoke, by the way, with Ole last Sunday before the game against Chelsea for almost 2 hours. He was very generous to spend, as I said, 1.5 hours on the phone with me, telling me all his inside details about the team. But as I said, with all those people, we haven't spoken about what will happen in the next 2 years, from next summer until summer 2024. We only spoke about the current situation and how we can find a way to work together.
All right.
Hi Ralf. I wondered how much you paid attention to Manchester United during your career in the past few years, and where you think we've got to this point of you being manager right now. And also, you've been a manager before, but also sporting director. I just wondered where your passion lies with the jobs that you've done in the past.
Yes, of course, I have always followed the development of the club. We played here 10 years ago with Schalke in the semi-final, but at the time it was even a big surprise that we qualified for the Champions League semi-finals against Inter in the weeks before that. Yes, coming back to the second part of the question, when Mr. Mateschitz called me in the summer of 2012, he wanted me to become the head coach of Salzburg at the time, and I said, even for that, we don't even need to meet. So he insisted. He flew over with his own helicopter with Gerard Houllier on board. They flew to my home city. Then he asked me, where could we land? I said, I don't know. Can we land near your house? I said, sorry, maybe we made a mistake when we planned the garden of my house. There is no space where you can land with your helicopter. So then he flew to the place where an hour later, we discussed for 4 hours. And after 4 hours, he asked me, Ralf, Mr. Rangnick, what are we doing wrong in football? Why are we being so successful in Formula One, and why are we not so successful in football? And what would you change? At the time, they had, to put it positively, very experienced squads. They had players who signed their last contract with good money, with nice standard of living in the two cities in Salzburg and Leipzig. And I said to him, I would change that. I would try to find players who sign their first or second contracts in their career. And then the whole motivational atmosphere will change. And we did that. And therefore, yes, I can work in both positions. If somebody asks me in which way do you see yourself more, I don't know. Right now, I feel and think and will very much want to work as a coach, head coach and team manager for the team. And this is what I've done in, I would say, 90% of the past 25 years in my career.
Okay, we need to finish up now. We'll finish with Andy Vinson.
Good morning. What was your view of Manchester United historically? What do you know about the history of this club? What should this club be?
I mean, looking back even to the times of George Best or Bobby Charlton, we could name. I had a look into Google the other week about the most famous players. I mean, you could line up 4 top teams in the last 50, 60 years. Of course, I also know about the disaster in Munich in 1958. It was the year that when I was born. Actually, I think it was in February. I was born in June. I know all this, and the legacy of this club is, again, unique. There are not that many clubs with such an history and DNA, and this is also, it's not only a legacy, it's also something that everybody who has the pleasure and can work for this club, we have to follow this legacy and make sure that the DNA will also be respected, always be respected.
What can Manchester United's players expect from you? Louis van Gaal talked about retraining their brains. But is it going to be a real culture shock for them when you can focus on the training ground in terms of tactics and approach?
I hope not. But of course, with that few training sessions, and even tomorrow I cannot do a lot with the players that played yesterday because I need to make sure that they have enough power and fuel in their tanks for the game on Sunday. So physically, we cannot really train. So the only way to help them and to give them an input is mentally, obviously, with regard to energy. And I mean, yesterday the second half showed that there is enough energy in the team. And of course, it's about video footage, showing them the right situations, telling them what they might be able to do better to keep the team away from their own box. Those are the kind of things. Of course, it's train the brain. I mean, modern football in the last 10 years, since football has completely changed into a more physical, more athletic, more vertical, more high-speed ball game. I mean, if you watch games in the early 2000s and compare it with now, you wouldn't believe it's the same ball game. It has completely changed, and in order to develop teams, you need not only to train the bodies but also the brains.
Oh, could I just check one thing factually? Sorry, with the consultancy role, normally if somebody's a consultant, that allows them to work in other places as well. Will that be the case with you in the consultancy, or will you be working specifically
about that? The club told me that they would want to work with me not only in the short term but also in the at least medium term. They also want to benefit from my experience and expertise, and that was this would be a question you would have to ask to the board members. But for me, I think it was in the first instance, as I said, I could not turn down this proposal for the next 6.5 months, and including then the following 2 years. I think it was a perfect thing for me to do.
Okay, so do you have a question? Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Ralf, you were at the game last night. I just wanted to ask you, for everybody really, your likes and dislikes of what you saw from the performance last night.
I mean, all of you saw the game yourself, so the first half was shaky, to put it that way, with this unlucky goal. I mean, all of a sudden you saw an empty goal. I think even the referee didn't realize that David was lying on the goal line. Had he seen that, he would have probably interrupted the game, I would suppose. But he didn't see it. He only saw it when the shot crossed the goal line, and everybody was saying, "Oh, what is this? Where is the goalkeeper?" And even myself, I said, "Well, where is David?" And then I realized he was lying on the floor, being injured. And from then on, it was very clear that it could only be the VAR to decide is it a goal or not. And after that goal, it was a major blow for the team. You could see it. They were at that time lacking confidence, which is normal, and conceded that many goals. and therefore it was important to get the equalizer before before half time. And then for me, in the first 20 minutes, what I saw, it was impressive. The way that they then for 20 minutes played in their half, when they closed down Arsenal in their box, and then you could see the potential that is in the team. But we have to do that more sustainably. To as I said, to transfer the game away from our own box more into the team.
Okay, guys, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ralf Rangnick there addressing the press for the first time as interim manager of Manchester United. Plenty for us to discuss then with Andy Ritchie in the studio after this short break.